Planning and prepping is fun for a lot of DMs, and I'll be honest, I'm one of them. But here's something I've come to believe after being a DM for more than 4 decades. Winging it might actually be the better way to run the game. Before the prep enthusiasts in the audience click away, hear me out. I'm not saying throw your notes in the trash. I'm saying that running your game on the fly is a skill worth developing, and in this video, I'll show you a simple rule that makes it easier for any DM, even if you've never thought of yourself as a naturally creative person. I came to this conclusion the same way I come to most conclusions about running D&D, by looking back at what actually happened at my table and identifying what works and what doesn't. When I think about my most memorable sessions, the ones my players still talk about, a lot of them weren't heavily prepped. A lot of them were sessions where I was winging most of it and something unexpected yet really cool happened. I don't think that's a coincidence. As with most things, there's a catch. Winging it sounds great in theory. There's no prep stress, just you and your players creating something together in real time. The problem is that when you're making things up completely off the top of your head, you can easily paint yourself into a corner. And getting yourself out of that corner requires even more mental energy in the moment, which is what you want to avoid. Random or disjointed creativity can make things go really wonky really fast. Let's say an NPC makes a promise you can't keep, or a dungeon layout stops making physical sense. Maybe a plot detail from an hour ago contradicts something you established in a previous session, and the players call you on it. Let's face it, DMs who wing it need good memories, even if they keep good notes. I've been there. When those moments happen, you're not running a game anymore, you're doing damage control, while also trying to keep the session interesting, all in your head. Some DMs are naturally spontaneous and have the ability to hold it all together. I've met one guy who is generally airtight at keeping track of everything they invented on the spot, but even they have their limits. For most of us, pure unanchored winging it tends to produce adventures that feel scattered rather than alive. The goal is to make it up as you go along in a way that the players think you had it prepped all in advance. Here's the thing. When winging it works well, there's usually a reason why you pull it off. You likely didn't grab something out of thin air. What you most likely did, maybe without even realizing it, is you started with something that already existed and you tweaked it just enough to make it feel both new and intentional. What you did was edit something rather than invent it. That's the principle underneath every good improv moment at the table. And once you see it, you can learn how to do it on purpose. I call it the 10% rule. Here's how it works. Start with something, anything. Roll on a random encounter table, or think of a scenario you've seen in a movie. It doesn't matter where the seed comes from. What matters is that you have something in front of you to react to. Then change it by 10%. Nudge it in a new direction, or give it a slight twist. Add one detail that makes it yours. That's it. The reason this works comes down to a truth I've talked about for years. It's easier to edit than to create. When you have something in front of you, even something rough or random or borrowed, you enter more comfortable and confident territory. You're no longer staring at a blank page. You are reacting, adjusting, maybe even improving something that already exists. That's a completely different cognitive task, and it's one most people can do quickly and do fairly well. My channel is all about practical advice and inspiration for dungeon masters and players who want to run and play better D&D games. If that's useful to you, consider subscribing so you don't miss future videos. I put out new content every week. Let's say you roll on a random encounter table and you get 2 bandits on the road. That's not very exciting on its own, is it? But now apply the 10% rule. What if one of them is clearly nervous and the other is doing all the talking? What if they're not actually trying to rob the party, but are pretending to because someone is watching from the tree line? What if they've been hired by someone the party already knows? You haven't invented the wheel from scratch. You've taken something generic and added one layer that makes it feel new to the players. That's the 10%. The same thing works for locations. Let's say you need a tavern on short notice. Every tavern has a bar, a fireplace, and a suspicious stranger in the corner, right? Fine, start there. Now change one thing. The barkeep is mute and communicates by writing on a small chalkboard. The suspicious stranger is a child. There's a scruffy dog sitting in front of the fireplace. It's got a severed hand in its mouth, and yet everyone is pretending not to notice. One detail changes the whole feel of the scene, and that detail took you about 4 seconds to invent, because you started with something that already existed and you changed it by 10%. Role-playing NPCs is probably the purest form of improv in D&D. The party walks into a shop or gets stopped by a guard or stumbles into a conversation you hadn't planned, and suddenly you're on stage with no script. The 10% rule works here too, and it's especially powerful because you can draw from people and characters you already know. Pick a real person in your life, someone you know well enough to predict how they'd react in a given situation. Think of a coworker, a neighbor, or your Uncle Frank. Now put them behind the counter of a blacksmith shop and see what happens. You already know how they talk, whether they're friendly or gruff or long-winded, what gets under their skin, etc. That's your NPC. You've done zero work and you've got a character with genuine personality. You can also do this with fictional characters. Can you play a city guard as if he was the personality of Joey from Friends? He's confident and friendly, but not always the sharpest sword in the armory. That's a fully realized character, and he'll likely feel more alive to your players than someone you spent an hour inventing on paper. Maybe you've got a young shopkeeper's assistant. Portray them with the anxious, well-meaning energy of Peter Parker. The players will think you rehearsed the character for hours the night before. This method means you're not doing creative work in the traditional sense. You're borrowing an existing structure and applying it to a new situation. That's the 10% rule at work. Whether you're a player or a DM, I'd love to know how you handle winging it at your table. Are you someone who feels comfortable making things up on the fly, or does it make you nervous? Leave a comment and let me know. And if you've got a technique that works for you, share that too. Spontaneous creativity isn't just talent some people are born with and others aren't. It's a skill, and like any skill, I believe you can improve it with practice. The 10% rule is a training tool as much as it's a technique. The more you use it, the faster your brain starts making those connections on its own. You'll find yourself automatically looking for the twist, the detail you can adjust, or the personality you can borrow in a pinch. After a while, winging it stops feeling like a risk and starts feeling like the best part of your session. I think back to those memorable sessions I mentioned at the start. What made them work wasn't that I got lucky. It was that I had enough experience to grab something quickly and shape it into something that felt alive. That's what the 10% rule builds over time. You're not just getting through the session, you're getting better at the things that make D&D genuinely fun to run. So the real secret to winging it well is simple. Steal from other sources and change them by 10% to make them yours. Start with something, react to it, and adjust it just enough to make it fit. That's all you need. I believe this method can help make your D&D game even better than if you prepped it all in advance. Thanks for watching. I hope this video helps you feel a little more confident the next time the party goes somewhere you weren't expecting. As always, have fun, stay cool, and keep your dice rolling.